2014 at the Justice Center. Appreciate all of you being here today. We will hear a public hearing on two different items today. Conditional use permit and a rezoning request. Those are the two that we'll be hearing today. So I now open up the public hearing, and we have 30 minutes set for this public hearing. So if someone gets too lengthy talking, I might ask them to get to the point, but let's try to everyone be able to express themselves today towards those two issues. And the first thing on our list is Wesley Dove. You're listed on here as a conditional use permit. Would you like to speak in terms of that, sir?
Yes. My name is Wesley Dove. I'm the pastor at True Life Baptist Church. And we've been able to receive some property. And we would like to have permission to be able to build a small church on this property. That's what our request is.
Okay.
And y'all got any questions, feel free to ask. So.
I do have any questions. Commission, do y'all have any questions about Mr. Dove's request?
Where's it located at?
Grady School Road.
Grady School?
Yes, sir.
Oh, okay.
Off Stone Bridge, take a right, about 2 miles down the road.
Do we have anyone else that wants to speak on behalf of what Mr. Dove is requesting there to build the church? Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. My name is Jim Burdett. I live in the Grady School community. It's always been my hope to be able to establish a home base for True Life Baptist Church for the last 12 years since we've been, the Lord has established a church we've been reading. We felt like as a congregation this time that we have a home base that we can forever call True Life Baptist Church. And I believe we could be a help to the community, but most of all, I think the community can be a help to us, help us to grow and prosper. And so I'm definitely in favor and hoping that y'all grant our petition to be able to use this to build a church.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? Let me ask if there's anyone here present that would like to speak against the proposal that Mr. Dove has brought before us today. Hearing none, let's move into the second public hearing, rezoning request. Do we have Jane Porter? Jane?
I'm Jane. My husband Bob can speak on my behalf.
Would you like to come up and talk in favor of the request?
Yes.
Come on up front, sir.
Okay. Bob Pointer, 293 Vanderbilt Road, Martin, Georgia. We've lived out there since, I had a property out there April '96. We have a small shop at the end of the road. It was a large farm subdivided from the late Harold Vanderbilt. We bought this with a nominal 20-acre tract adjacent to a nominal 20-acre tract of the Allens, which I'm speaking, that's going to be our only opposition for it. Well, we've built stairs and handrail there and so forth. Hand me that picture, Jane, of the last stuff back. For years. And in 2005, economical collapse, crunch, was shut down. I took a job as an engineer for U.S. Sugar and went to South Florida for a while. My neighbor approached me back then to sell the land. And I had, at one point we nearly got on a figure, but we didn't quite get there. Anyways, while we were gone in 2005, prior to this there was no zoning ordinance. And the procurement of this land had such length and detail. The previous panel I gave all this information to, showing the angularity of the very road coming off of the property. I got Tommy Watkins before he died, and then Bob McCall for the grader. And I brought my building and certified design for my structural buildings on a pole barn. Anyways, I brought that, and we had an initial vote against us, but we went there for right at 9 years and didn't fabricate. Well, now we're back in the commercial market strong. We do mainly colleges, universities, and we do stairs and handrails. Not a very large operation, mind you, but I also would employ my children. I have one son that'll be returning, getting out of prison soon, and it's the trade he knows. So he'll be at it, and my youngest son, Noah, just graduated high school. He's also going to work in it. So a very small-scale operation. For the most part, it's, you know, shop in the field. No one other than the Allens has ever said anything about it, period. So, over the years, I guess, this bamboo had, well, it's all growing up out there. You can't see. They planted a bunch of bamboo and it's just coming over on our place. Well, the other day, I stopped talking to Gary. He'd come over there to mow behind my office where Quality Steel is a company that I know now. Hit my electric pole, tore my power all up, didn't fix it properly. Just trying to make, you know, come over at will. Well, he's like, I see your sign there. We had another, you trying to get your map amended. I said, yeah. You know, I didn't know that this was ever rezoned, because when I put the building out there, the very rear coordinate, most northeast coordinate of my property plan of 18.77 acres is 1/4 mile perpendicular to 17 on the plat. So you're real close there. So he's like, well, you know, you can't pass on this road. And I said, well, Gary, look, we're not going to do anything like before. There's no semis, which are all the size of garbage trucks. So, you know, it's a very small operation. Well, they just went and got counsel right off the bat. What you're going here, she can get up and give a spiel and all that. But what we're saying, we didn't necessarily think we needed any kind of zoning, because what had happened while we were away, it seemed the bandwagon was got on about getting applied zoning county regulations. Surreptitiously, nonetheless, but all this came about. So we get ready to get an FBE, Female Business Enterprise, with my wife, set up to do this, all this rail for the city of Atlanta. Then we meet with this massive opposition. Well, you'd have been grandfathered in, had you zoned this. Look, my opposition knows full well, he's calling me in Florida, still trying to buy the place when I'm down there, this engineering U.S. Sugar. And that's when all this legislation took place. To my ignorance, I didn't know this. Okay. Had I known all this, I would just simply got my $35 business license fee continually on the outside chance that one day down the road, just pick up and build again. So that didn't happen, and now all of a sudden, opposition has brought some, you know, fabricated, formulated impact study of how I guess we're going to end up killing the whales on the nearest east coast. I reckon. I'm being a bit facetious, but we just want to build there. We have no real quarrel with them, but they're manipulative. Have called the EPD on every land tract owner on there, even on the dying man Harold Vandiver about burying medicine in his yard. These people are trying to control the land. They recently reacquired Larry's land on the hills, 35 acres. Okay, they only got it under the premise of him dying of cancer. So that's how he got this other 35 to go to his basic 20, just like mine. So the way the land argument is going to look right now, I've got this massive area of land. And he also got 4 acres off of Rollo Strip that boundaries us on the easterly side. So what I see out there is we keep to ourselves, okay? We wanted to build some handrail. They've never liked our shop. I proved to the previous panel that the design drawings on my shop were generated in 1995 under the structural sound. We went about it completely the right way. We've done the proper planning within the late Tommy Watkins. Everything about it. Gary knew in those days, as he began to build his house around summer of '96, that's when all the photos were taking place, ours as well, that we had to be graded off for a shop. Our ideals clashed, and I hate that, guys. I do. And it's been just a breeding ground for feuding. And the law's been out there. It's countless of times to intervene. And I could just bore you all the horror stories, but for the amount of time that we got, I'm simply asking you guys for, just to give us our business license back, as it were, that we were previously building by. We don't even plan that kind of magnitude. It's not like that little area right there is not gonna be overwhelmed, and by attrition, it's gonna become industrial eventually. I mean, it's just a fact. All major thoroughfares running through cities, it just happens. Matter of time before it does. I'm glad it ain't there. I like the country environment of it as well. But we come to learn, you know, we do this the map amendment. So all of a sudden, there's criteria now that we never knew about. Now, had we known about this, we would have went ahead and, like I say, just continued to pay for the business license. And we're asking that you look at it, not look at the feud, and it's been probably give and take on both sides just as much, you know. I'm not going to bore anybody to tears to tell you it's not. But by and large, one person for the greater good, with an ulterior motive, undisclosed, trying to reacquiesce all the land, should not be able to stand in the way of somebody making money. Last year we was in business, 2005. We bought $300,000 for raw materials. Franklin County got that sales tax, and all previous years to it, since 1992. So that ought to mean something as well to a county that needs some money. You know, this county needs money. I think you all agree with that. That's pretty much. You see any other point? All right. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate your points there. Good point. Anything, anybody else want to speak in favor of the shop? All right, let's go to, do we have anybody who wants to talk against this rezone?
My name's Andrea Grant. I'm the attorney with Grant & Green, and I represent the Allens, and I was going to give you all some legal information about the request.
Okay, come forward.
The first thing, Ms. Allen is going to give you all out a packet, because I can't possibly cover everything that involves this rezoning in a few minutes of time. So she has a notebook that she's going to give out to you that sets out the zoning ordinances, references to the things that I'm going to talk about, information about the comprehensive plan. It's going to present you with a chart of the deficiencies, omissions, and fallacies in the submitted application. It will highlight the matters related to nonconformity or grandfathering, along with the conditional use criteria that was not addressed in the application. And it has slides from a PowerPoint so you can visualize the 18.77 acres in perspective of the hundreds of agricultural lands surrounding it. She's also giving you a personal letter from her and her husband that set out a little bit of history of the property, as well as some of the different problems and things that they had, that they've incurred. I am also going to give you a constitutional notice letter spelling out some of the possible matters that can and would be violated in the event that you do approve this application. Also at this time asking the Board of Commissioners to include the notebook, the letter from the Allens, as well as the constitutional objections letter in with the minutes of this meeting. And please, I'm asking you, please don't buy into personal grudges or emotional pleas. If you'll focus on the rules and regulations plus the recommendation of your planning commission, who concluded that the application should be denied, I think it'll be sufficient enough for you all to make that decision to deny the application as well. As they mentioned, in May of 1996, there's a deed on record that the Allens purchased 23 acres of land. The access to the property was and still is only a 30-foot dirt gravel ingress-egress easement shared by the other property owners. The easement is off Pleasant Hill Road. 1 month later, according to the deed records, the Pointers purchased 18.77 acres of land at the dead end of the same road, and, well, the dead end of the same dirt gravel ingress egress easement. Crucially, any traffic traveling on this easement to the end of the road have to pass 7 tracts of land. And I went ahead and showed you, as you can see, here's Pleasant Hill Circle, which continues up here. This is the length of this dirt easement that any trucks bringing supplies or taking product out will have to go by 7 parcels of land. So that kind of, when they say a picture is worth 1,000 words, I think, or 1,000,000 words, or whatever it is, I think clearly that shows you.
Can I ask you a question?
Certainly.
Is that a dirt road?
It's my understanding it's dirt, and may have had some gravel at one time.
So you haven't been out there?
No, but I'm sure you'd like to confirm with
Just
the...
a question.
No, I have not personally been out there. After the Pointers purchased the property, they did indeed erect a structure. The Franklin County tax assessors characterize it as a pole shed made of metal and open. The assessed value currently is $3,669. And you will find a copy of your tax assessor's property record card. So all these years, the taxes on this structure has been, less than $5,000. And I provided you with a letter that describes some of the disruptive activities that happened until Mr. Pointer discontinued the fabrication on the property sometime in 2005. Mr. Pointer alleges there was some grand schemer. He wasn't aware of the Franklin County comprehensive plan or the rezoning implementation. And I don't know if any of you are on the board then, but you have to have public hearings. It has to be ran in the newspaper. It's an extensive process. And just because he wasn't here, if you own land in Franklin County, you were on constructive notice that this was taking place. And you'll see in your notebooks that all the objections presented that are presented are supported by either the zoning ordinance and the comp plan, and I do have footnotes with each one of those. It's key for you all to remember as decision makers that not only is the zoning request fails to comply with your zoning ordinance and comp plan, but also steel fabrication, even in CI, is a prohibited use. If y'all want copies of that. I didn't make you copies of all those, but I've got it in my files. One of the charts are the deficiencies for the application, and those are pretty self-explanatory in your notebooks. And I'll hit the highlights on a couple of the criteria. And even one, their failure to fulfill one criterion is enough or sufficient to deny the application. The first criteria is the existing use and district designation of nearby properties and whether the proposed land use will adversely affect the existing use or usability of nearby property. This poster, you can see the Pointer property here in the blue. The stars indicate CUVA property, conservation use property, all surrounding that. This little road right here is your easement. Private easement, 7 tracts of land.
And that's a private road as well?
I'm sorry?
A private road as well?
The easement is private
Yes, sir.
for 7 tracts.
So I see the plat that shows Exhibit A that includes the 30-foot egress easement. Is there any additional documentation that details what is required, what is not required, the terms and condition of said easement?
They are referenced in the individual deeds that I do have a copy if you'd like.
If you do, that'd be great.
it'll indicate that it is a private ingress, egress easement for the property owners. It does not say terms and conditions.
Okay.
Do you still want to see it?
Not if that is the
That's it,
extent of
that's
the
it.
verbiage in it.
That's it. And I was going to digress just for a minute to discuss spot zoning with you. Spot zoning is the antithesis of planned zoning, and you can see Eastland Inc. versus Floyd County, 1979. After all these years, since 1979, the Supreme Court case is still good law. The case specifically states that spot zoning is illegal and invalid when it is not done in accordance with the comprehensive plan. What is spot zoning? Well, the Eastland case defines it as the process of singling out a single small parcel of land, as you see in the midst of all the green, agricultural or residential, for a use classification that is totally different from all of the surrounding areas for the benefit of the owner of such property and to the detriment of the other owners. And gentlemen, I believe if you approve the zoning request or the request for the conditional use, you'll be creating illegal and invalid spot zoning in this area. Another criteria, and I'm not taking these in order because I know you all have more business, so I was just trying to hit the highlights. Criteria 9 is whether the land use proposal is conformity with the policies and intent of the comprehensive plan. And the applicant on his application even failed to address criteria 9 regarding character areas of the comprehensive plan. As you can see, I've put a poster up of your all's plan that is actually on record for you. And you can notice that the character areas for the areas entitled rural neighborhood, and those are lands described as low-density residential lands. Criterion 8, the extent to which the proposed zoning will result in use which will or could cause excessive or burdensome use of existing streets, transportation facilities, utilities, schools, parks, or other public facilities. This property is not suitable for commercial use. There is no water or sewer available, or even remotely available in the near future. There is
water and sewer. It's just not city water, city sewer, and it can't come down a private road. Be clear on that point, please.
There's no access to a major arterial highway. All these things, water, sewer, and major arterial highway, these are all requirements of a CI or commercial district. None that are available here. And we're talking infrastructure, we're not talking septic tank and well water. The character area of this area has not changed, is not changing, and there's no indication of future change. You've got all these cougar properties that have signed up for 10 years, at least, and probably are going to be renewed. This is agricultural land. This is not set for industrial or commercial property. The notebook shows you photos of the easement that must be traveled to reach the subject property. But remember that subject property is at the dead end of the easement. Families with children live at the end off this easement. Heavy trucks hauling steel and finished product would be dangerous to other vehicles, persons, and destructive to the easement itself. Criterion 5, I'm not going to go into the whole detail of 5, but it talks about, it involves the physical suitability of the subject property. And in your zoning ordinance, it says CI, or commercial industrial districts, are districts for certain areas with 3 key features: relatively level topography, adequate water and sewer facilities, and access to major arterial highways. Crucially, and this is from your zoning ordinance, this district is not to be placed in close proximity to other residential and other districts that may be damaged by objectionable circumstances such as emission of noise, vibration, dust, large vehicles, and heavy traffic. And as I mentioned before, even in CI steel fabrication, the steel fabrication conditional use is specifically prohibited. The applicant failed to even discuss any of the conditional use criteria on his application. What he just wrote was C attached, meaning his responses to the zoning criteria responses. There is a whole different criteria, I'm sure you all know, for conditional uses. I provided you with a chart entitled Related Matters, and that contains your criteria for the consideration of conditional uses. And you can find your conditional use criteria in section 1607 of your zoning ordinance. Although all 10 of those criteria are to be considered, 3 in particular prohibit the grant of the conditional use. Number 4 relates once again to the ingress, egress to the property. That has to be suitable and safe, and affects the proposed activity, won't affect adjoining streets, and is not adverse. And remember, you're going to say, I'm tired of hearing her say this. This is a private easement shared by 7 tracts of land. It doesn't rise to the level of the street, public street or arterial highway as required. Number 10, the proposed use has to be consistent with the goals and objectives of the comprehensive plan. And that's why I made you this poster. You can see, here's our subject area. Here's your little easement right there. I'm not sure. The road leading out to it. This is all agriculture area. This is all rural neighborhood. And way down here, a small portion on State Highway 17 is the commercial. And this is from your comp plan with the DCI on their website. If you have any questions about whether or not the actual property is grandfathered or not, in your packet I have included a chart that supplies you with specific sections of the zoning ordinance that your zoning ordinance discourages and seeks removal of any non-conforming use. Now this one is not even in the ballpark we have an admission from the applicant that any commercial activity was stopped in 2005. His application says it was used for storing farm implements and other things. So for almost 10 years, it has not been used.
Okay, in lieu of time here, could you give us a summation?
Absolutely. I was just getting there. In summary, which I know you've been patiently waiting for, the applicant completely failed to provide the required information or answer the criteria. He failed to respond or discuss conditional use criteria. He provided false answers. The property was not grandfathered. The property values will not increase. No general welfare benefit occurs. No public gain results. The subject property, and I think this is your biggest one, lacks proper ingress, egress. No infrastructure exists. Adjacent nearby property owners will be adversely affected and heavily burdened, and illegal and invalid spot zoning would result if you granted this application. We encourage you to follow the recommendations of your planning commission, the Franklin County ordinance, which is reinforced by your comp plan, on file with the Georgia Department of Community Affairs. Remember, I'm not saying I don't want this in my neighborhood, but I'm providing you with firm black and white rules that prohibit the rezoning and conditional use on this location. On behalf of Larry and Gary Allen, and based on your own ordinance, please deny the application to rezone and do not grant the conditional use application.
Thank you very much. Do I have anyone else that'd like to speak against rezoning, please? I hear none, so we'll close out our public hearing and take a short break.